What's going on, everyone? This is Luke from South Beach Sports, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to discuss the 7 head coaching candidates for the Miami Dolphins that either have already interviewed with the Dolphins or plan to interview with them in the very near future. We're going to talk about what their career paths have been like up to this point, and we're going to discuss some of the potential positives and negatives of bringing these candidates in as potential head coaches. Like always, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that post notification bell so you do not miss a single video. This is going to be the first upload on a double upload day. In about an hour, I'm going to release my Calvin Ridley to the Dolphins video, so if you're interested in that, make sure to turn on that post notification bell so you do not miss it. Go ahead and comment down below your thoughts on the 7 head coaching candidates for that Dolphins head coaching job, and which one of these candidates would you prefer the most. The first candidate that I want to talk about today is current Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, who interviewed with the Dolphins last Sunday. Daboll has NFL offensive coordinator experience with the Browns, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and with the Bills. He also served as a tight end coach with New England at one point in his career. He was also an offensive coordinator with Alabama, where he was Tua Tagovailoa's play caller in his freshman season. That was a season in which Tua had that game-winning touchdown pass in overtime of the national championship game, and Daboll has been known to be a very, very big fan of Tua Tagovailoa. One thing that is a little concerning, though, is that he did not lead a top 20 offense until Josh Allen's 3rd season in the NFL, which is when he took that big-time leap. Also, whenever I say top whatever offense, that refers to yards per game. But he really did struggle for his first 2 seasons as an NFL offensive coordinator. A lot of his offenses were average at best and pretty horrible at worst. And there's a lot of people that contribute the success of the Bills' offense to the development of Josh Allen rather than the play calling of Brian Daboll. I will say this about Daboll, in that he has shown that he can produce some very, very good rushing offenses. In his 8 seasons as an NFL offensive coordinator, he's had 6 top 11 rushing offenses. So the Dolphins' rushing attack is something that needs improvement. It hasn't been good since 2016 when they had that one season with Jay Ajayi. But since then, the Dolphins' rushing offense has been very, very lackluster. And I'm sure if Daboll was the head coach, that would definitely change. Some of the positives for bringing in Brian Daboll to be the next Dolphins head coach would have to be his working relationship with Chris Grier, as the two did work together in Miami in 2011 when Daboll was the offensive coordinator there, and Brian Daboll's relationship with Tua Tagovailoa. Now, the negatives for bringing in Daboll to be the next Dolphins head coach have to be his questionable track record of calling offenses without an elite quarterback. The next head coaching candidate for the Dolphins I want to talk about today is Bills defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier, who interviewed with the Dolphins as well last Sunday. Frazier served as the head coach of the Vikings from 2010 to 2013, where he compiled an overall record of 21-32 with 1 playoff appearance. He has 16 years of NFL experience as a defensive coordinator, and he's currently the defensive coordinator in Buffalo, where he's held that position since 2017. The Bills defense has received a lot of praise, as they are the #1 defense in total yards per game allowed. Some of the positives for bringing in Frazier to be the next Dolphins head coach would have to be his ability to coach very, very elite defenses in the NFL, such as that with the Bills this season. And he has been a head coach in the NFL, like I said earlier, and he wouldn't be a guy that would necessarily be learning on the job, which is definitely a plus. Now, some of his weaknesses would have to be that even though he was a head coach in the NFL with the Vikings, he really didn't have much success, and I explained this in a previous video, but just because a coach was a head coach in the NFL doesn't necessarily guarantee that they'll be able to have success in their next head coaching tenure. And I don't see Frazier as the type of coach the Dolphins are looking for. If the Dolphins decide to hire a former head coach, I think it'll be someone who was a head coach in the past 3 to 5 years and someone who had success in their head coaching tenure. And if not that, then I think they'll go more towards an offensive assistant, someone who has showed the ability to either call games on the offensive side at a very high level, or a top-notch assistant who's thought of as an offensive guru, and Frazier really doesn't fit that notion very well. The next head coaching candidate that I want to talk about is current 49ers offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel, who interviewed with the Dolphins on Wednesday. Now, I already made a longer video about Mike McDaniel and why I would be such a huge fan of him becoming the next Dolphins head coach, so if you're interested in that, I will leave the link to that video in the description down below. Now, McDaniel, like I said, is currently the offensive coordinator with the 49ers, and he's worked in various offensive roles with the Broncos, the Texans, with Washington, with the Falcons, and then with the 49ers, where he was originally the run game coordinator from 2017 to 2020, and then he moved on and got promoted to offensive coordinator in the 2021 offseason. Some of the positives for Mike McDaniel becoming the next Dolphins head coach would be that he's considered a true offensive genius around NFL circles. Both players and coaches absolutely rave about him. And another positive would be that he's worked with many NFL teams in the past, so I wouldn't be that concerned about his ability to put together a competent staff around him. And another positive is that he comes from the Mike Shanahan coaching tree, which is a coaching tree that has produced so many branches in today's modern NFL, especially on the offensive side of the football. And it's a coaching tree that I would definitely like the Dolphins to tap into. Some of the weaknesses for McDaniel would have to be his lack of play calling and head coaching experience. If you couldn't already tell, the list of positives definitely outweighed the list of negatives. I am completely biased towards McDaniel, and I would be a huge fan of him becoming the next Dolphins head coach. Let's move on and talk about the Cowboys coordinators who interviewed on Thursday, the first of which is defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. Quinn was originally the Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator with the Seattle Seahawks, as he was the play caller of that just magical Legion of Boom defense, and then he moved on and became the head coach with the Atlanta Falcons, where he had one Super Bowl appearance in 2016. A lot of that is contributed to the absolutely star-studded offensive staff that he had, led by the likes of Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur, who is the current Packers head coach, and Mike LaFleur, brother of Matt LaFleur, and the current Jets offensive coordinator. He had it made on the offensive side of the football. When those assistants moved on, his coaching tenure in Atlanta quickly turned pretty bad, and he then moved on and became the Cowboys defensive coordinator, where the Cowboys rank 19th in the NFL in yards allowed per game this season. Some of the positives for hiring Dan Quinn would be that he's coached some very elite defenses as a defensive coordinator, and that he's won some pretty meaningful playoff games as a head coach, and he's proven the ability to hiring a good staff, especially on the offensive side of the football, which was a major downfall of Brian Flores's. Some of the negatives for Dan Quinn would be that the Falcons were really bad near the end of his tenure when his offensive assistants moved on, and the Cowboys defense wasn't great this season. It wasn't bad by any stretch, but it was far from an elite defense. Let's move on to the offensive side of the football in Dallas and talk about Cowboys offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, who the Dolphins interviewed on Thursday. Now, Moore did lead the Cowboys to having the #1 rated offense in football, as Dallas led the league in yards per game. So that's definitely a terrific thing to have on Moore's resume as a coordinator. Before his coaching career, he was a spectacular college quarterback at Boise State, and he did have a couple of short stints in the NFL with the Lions and the Cowboys. In 2018, Moore started his coaching career as the Cowboys quarterbacks coach. He helped develop Dak Prescott, and he was then promoted to offensive coordinator, where he has had a lot of success since. Now, some of the positives for Kellen Moore would be that he's considered to be an up-and-comer in NFL coaching circles. He's only 32, and he's receiving some head coaching looks, which is insanely impressive. Now, some of his negatives do have to deal with his lack of experience. He's only coached in 4 seasons in the NFL, and he's only been with one team as a coach. And personally, I'm looking for a head coach or a potential head coach that has been with numerous teams and has been with a multitude of different coaches, and Moore really doesn't fulfill that notion at all. Last 2 candidates that I want to talk about today, and the first one is current Cardinals defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, who interviewed with the Dolphins on Friday, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I would not be thrilled with this at all, as I'm sure a lot of you Dolphins fans would not be happy about this at all if he became the next Dolphins head coach. He was the Dolphins defensive coordinator in 2016, where the Dolphins had a very underwhelming 26th ranked defense. Not really sure how Joseph became a head coach based off of that, but he did, and he flamed out in Denver. In only 2 seasons, he compiled a record of 11-21 as Denver's head coach. Some of the few positives for bringing in Joseph to be the next Dolphins head coach would be his previous working relationship with Chris Grier in the Dolphins. He does have some NFL head coaching experience, not really successful experience at that, but experience nonetheless, and he has coached a decent Cardinals defense this season. I wouldn't call it good or great by any stretch, but a decent one nonetheless. Now, some of the negatives: his tenure in Denver was pretty bad. It was not good at all, and I wouldn't consider Joseph to be an elite defensive coordinator by any stretch of my imagination. So Joseph would definitely not be at the top of my list, as I'm sure he's not at the top of any of your lists as well. Now, the last head coaching candidate that I want to talk about today is current Rams running backs coach and assistant head coach Thomas Brown. Now, Brown is set to interview with the Dolphins on Friday. I'm not sure if that interview has already happened or it's set to happen in the very near future. All I know is that it's been reported to have happened or will happen on Friday. Now, Brown has bounced around the college ranks as a running backs coach and as an offensive coordinator with the University of Miami, although he did not call plays there. He was then hired in 2020 by the Rams to be the running backs coach, and he was promoted in 2021 to assistant head coach. Now, some of the positives around Thomas Brown would have to be his name has been thought of very highly amongst NFL circles. He's only 35, so he definitely has a very bright future as an NFL coach, and he would be coming from the Sean McVay coaching tree, which has been a very successful tree to pluck your next head coach off of in the recent years. Just think of Zach Taylor, Brendan Staley, Matt LaFleur. There have been some very successful recent head coaches to come out of that Sean McVay coaching tree, and just Thomas Brown will be the next one to pluck from the branches of the McVay coaching tree. I believe I'm saying that right. Some of the negatives about Thomas Brown would be his lack of experience as an NFL coach. He's only coached 2 seasons in the NFL, which is not long at all. Players and coaches respect him, but I'm not sure what type of staff he would be able to put together. And even though I am a complete sucker for the Sean McVay / Mike Shanahan coaching tree, I'm not sure how I would feel about hiring such an inexperienced head coach. That's going to be it for today's video, guys. Be on the lookout for another video later today about Calvin Ridley to the Miami Dolphins. I will start recording that video after this one is published. Like I always say, and like I said earlier, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the post notification bell so you do not miss a single video. Comment down below your thoughts on the Dolphins head coaching search, what your thoughts are on these 7 candidates, and which of these candidates that you would prefer the most. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you later. Peace.